Hello, friends. I'm Anderson Marchak,
And I'm Ricardo Segura.
and we are the Panel Bros. Welcome to the panel.
Welcome to the panel. Yeah,
All right, so here we are.
here we are.
We have a breakdown for you folks today.
Yes, we do.
And I was talking to Ricardo and looking at the calendar, and as of this recording, it is early August 2023.
hmm
And I saw that we were coming up on the 1 year anniversary of this movie being released, and it hit streaming services. And
Yeah.
it was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, and it was released on August the 5th of 2022 on Hulu. Today we are
Yup,
talking about Prey.
bro. What a movie. And you know what? And it's funny because it did go straight to streaming or right to Hulu. And I was worried. I was like, oh man, they put it right on streaming. I said, why would you do that? It's a great IP. But the IP over the years has kind of gone down a little bit with public.
Right.
And after I watched it, I was like, man, this would have ruled in the theaters. But probably because it went to streaming, so many more people watched it immediately. There was no fear of like, oh, I got to go to the movies to see another Predator movie. Oh, have they really landed as of late? Like that fear was gone. People could just watch it at home. So there's a part of me that wish it got a theatrical release, but the fact that it went on Hulu was awesome because I got to see it day of, man, and that movie rules.
Yeah, I just think that well, you subvert your expectations once you hear that something's going straight to streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just within minutes when I hit that play button. I just remember the first time I saw it, I was just sitting there going, "Oh wow, like
Dude,
why is this not in the movie theater?" You know? So
exactly. Like I felt like, oh man, this would have been an amazing theatrical run, and maybe the positive word of mouth, maybe the opening weekend would have been okay because people were hesitant, but then hopefully the word of mouth would have given it legs. Because I remember when this dropped on Hulu, within the first weekend, the praise for this was through the roof. Like
yeah,
everybody was so excited. They felt like finally the Predator franchise is back. Like they were like, it got back to its roots. It figured out an amazing formula. And I was just so thrilled because it's no secret that you are a fan of Predator.
yeah,
I am a fan of Predator.
oh yeah,
And to see, what we've done over the years has been hit or miss depending on who you are. But this one, it felt right. Like they got it. Listen, I saw this on streaming, and like you, I absolutely right away believe this could have been in theaters. And I feel like even if opening weekend it wouldn't have done so hot, as I mentioned that the IP had kind of gotten beaten to the floor a little bit, and people might have been really hesitant. And not to mention the fact that it was called Prey. So there was probably a few people that would have just seen the title right away and not even known it was related to Predator. So maybe opening weekend, it might not have done too strong in the theater. But I feel like the positive word of mouth was so strong that it might have helped this thing have legs. But it ended up on streaming, and I'm happy for that too. I'm happy we got it regardless because it looks great, and the positive word of mouth was so rapid because everyone was seeing it right away. It took 2 seconds for someone to scroll down Twitter, see positive praise for this thing, and go, "Oh, it's on Hulu? Cool. I'll put it on." You don't have no additional charges. Like some places are like, you pay $4.99, $20, no, nothing. Just watch it and we're good to go. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that it got the amount of praise that it did, being such long fans of the Predator, and just seeing that they found that formula that works. So I wish it got a theater run. It didn't happen, but I'm hoping that due to the success of Prey, that if we get any more follow-ups because of the word of mouth and people are excited for more and they want to see this formula continue, I'm really hoping we get a theater run moving forward.
well, things have definitely changed since Prey was released, and we will get into that today. So,
Oh yeah,
uh, let's get started with our breakdown here.
let's do it.
Alrighty. So it is 1719, and we are in the Great Plains. We have Naru, a young Comanche woman trained as a healer, and she wants to become a great hunter like her brother Tap. And she's tracking deer. She witnesses strange lights in the sky, and she believes it to be a thunderbird and a sign that she is ready to become a hunter.
Hmm.
And right after that, we got our prey title card. We're just getting straight into it.
It's such a simple opening, and it works so much because right away we're introduced to her as a healer, but she wants to be more. And I like that right away we know that her character is being, told like, hey, this is who you are. And she's like, no, I envision something more for myself. And I love that we get that right in a few opening minutes. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah. And I mean, let's just talk about this now. Like, they could have used the Predator name because it would have been
Yeah.
more familiar to audiences, but for whatever reason, they said let's change course here. And maybe other people will watch it if we don't put
Yeah.
Predator in front of the name, you know?
Yeah. I think it, and I think because of what we mentioned earlier is the idea that the Predator franchise has gotten beaten up a bit, and maybe they were worried about people just hearing, "Hey, Predator" in theaters, and people go, "Ugh, another one." They're not going to get it right, so they kind of went off a little bit and said, "Hey, we'll call it Prey," and people who are in the know about movies would know because we would have read already at this point. Okay, it's a Predator movie, but maybe someone else might not have and seen a trailer where you have these indigenous individuals that are out there and they're fighting something, they can't tell what it is, and it's called Prey, and they're like, "Ooh, what is this? This looks interesting." And then, long and behold, they find out a little ways in, oh, it's a Predator movie. But at that point, they're already in. They're already in for the ride.
So I put this down here. They were pretty deliberate with showing the survival of the fittest scene. Um,
Yes.
you saw, I believe, it was an ant, and it was crawling. It looked like it was crawling in the middle of the air. We know what it was crawling on, but
Yep.
um, an ant, and then I believe like a mouse ate it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or some type of rodent ate
Yes.
the ant, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a snake uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, eats the mouse. I believe a rattlesnake, and then the creature that we know is the predator ends up stabbing the snake because the snake actually lunged
Yeah.
at the predator, which was actually in camouflage. So that was really cool. It's like, listen, I can't see you, but with my other senses, I know that you're there.
Yeah,
And
it was able to sense the predator and it went for the strike and it felt it knew something was off. And again, a very small scene, very easy to do, and it's a nice theme that we've had throughout the Predator movies, but to see it explored this way was very cool visually. Like you said, survival of the fittest. There's always something bigger than you. There's always something deadlier than you. And I like that you see that go up the chain and it takes out the snake with no problem. And it's like, yep, this is where we are.
yeah. So later, a member of the tribe is taken by a cougar. And Nauru, she's in the search party, and they find the wounded man. And Tab, he's going to decide to stay behind to find the cougar.
Hmm.
And this was such a cool scene. We get exposed to the Comanche culture here of what
Yes.
would happen when they find somebody like this. So she goes to work as a healer with all her herbs and her the mixology and things that she has going on. And the guys, they start building a stretcher from
Right
scratch.
away from scratch, man. They're on it. And it was like watching one of those videos when you need help building something of just people who know what they're doing. And they were just building no problem. And it was awesome how quick and efficient they were. And it just lets you know exactly how much survival skills these people have.
Yeah, it was great. And she's got the herbs to put into his wounds, and then she even brings like the psychedelic flowers to ease his pain
Mhm.
and such. Like, really cool scene.
I love the scene too because as you know, they introduce the idea of she's putting the ointment on his wounds and he starts to get cold. And I like that they're already setting us up for something that's coming down the line with how a predator uses heat vision and his blood was running cold. And I believe at one point someone says like, "Oh, like we have to do something about that." She goes, "Do you want him comfortable or do you want him alive? This is what we have to do." And I like it because the movie's going to do something different that we haven't seen yet. If you watch the Predator movies, you've seen it time and time again what characters do to kind of hide from the predator. And in this one, we got something completely unique and different that is teased in this very scene. And it was awesome. I feel like all Predator fans, ourselves included, when this scene was happening, we were like, oh, we know where this is gonna go. You know what I mean? That was cool.
So Naru finds these large tracks and a skinned rattlesnake. And she goes back with Pack and one of the other people in the tribe, and she reunites with Tab, her brother.
Hmm.
The three set a trap for the cougar, but it ends up killing Pack. And I
Yeah.
need to talk about that because Pack's been pretty hard on Naru because she wants to be a warrior
Yeah.
and a hunter. And this is not the way of the culture because it's the men are the hunters and the women are the
Hmm.
healers, or they, prepare the food and such. It's a very um, it's a system that's already laid out. Why are we trying to change things type deal?
Yeah.
And per the time, uh, if a woman wanted more roles, she would be she would get some ridicule.
Hmm.
She would be the focus of some ridicule. But Pac's the one that's been the hardest on her. And mid sentence of him ridiculing her, I'm not saying he deserved to die, but dude got some karma because the cougar got him mid sentence
Yeah.
as he was ridiculing her.
Yep.
So,
He was too busy not focusing on the hunt,
right,
ridiculing her, and it ended up costing him his life.
right. So Naru finds she's facing off with the cougar, but she gets knocked unconscious, and apparently she's being distracted by these noises and lights in the background and such. She wakes up back at home, and because Tab, he actually carried her back, and he comes back to the village carrying the cougar, and he ends up getting the title of war chief by doing so.
Hmm.
Thinking that there's a bigger threat in the woods, Naru departs with the dog Sari. So she's looking at her brother and saying, like, there's something out there.
Yeah.
I had the cougar. She's like, no, you didn't. You didn't have the cougar. The cougar knocked you out. I ended up getting the cougar and bringing you back home. You know, Naru, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
But because of her instincts, because they did mention she knows how to track and that she's a really
Yes.
good tracker. She may not have experience hunting, but she knows how to track. So she can't let it go when she saw the predator tracks, and
Yep.
she's seeing and hearing all these noises and seeing these lights and such. There's something wrong.
Hmm.
So she heads back out with the dog. um, we get another nature scene here
Yes.
involving a rabbit. And I believe the rabbit, he's either being chased by a wolf or a coyote.
Yeah.
And um, the wolf, I think, yeah, it catches the rabbit.
Hmm.
And then eventually the wolf has a face off with the predator.
Yep.
It doesn't last very long.
Not at all. It's a one strike takedown,
Yeah.
man.
So within because the predator's got that claw, man. He's got that Wolverine like claw.
Yep.
And just all it takes is one, and that's what
And the wolf, the poor thing didn't even know it was taken out. Like it,
right,
it lunges and it lands on its feet and turns around to strike again, and it just falls apart.
right.
Just literally falls apart right there. And it's like, oh, Predator's gonna do what Predator does.
And reminiscent of the first Predator movie, which will happen many times throughout this movie, we get the infamous spine pull,
Yes.
and it happened to the poor wolf,
Yep.
but we saw it happen to human beings,
Oh, yes,
in
we
the
have
in the
plenty of times.
but so Trachtenberg already he's trying to honor the first movie, but give us
Mhm.
something new. That's what he's
Yes.
trying to do here, and he does that many times throughout the film.
It is, and I'm not saying that I want to see animals die in movies, but this is
Right,
one of the few times where we saw Predator take down numerous animals throughout this film, because it's about seeing, like again, it's survival of the fittest. The Predator isn't just naturally tracking human beings; it's tracking anything that is a challenge, anything that could be a threat, and it's one of the few times where we see this Predator throughout the movie challenge different animals and beasts, and that was cool to watch.
so Naru ends up stumbling into a bog pit. It's
Mhm.
like it's like a quicksand type situation.
It's nightmare fuel, my man.
Oh
I've been
yeah, and
terrified.
we spend a few minutes here because
Yeah.
we need to see how she responds to this situation.
Mhm.
And it was really cool. she has this axe with a rope attached to it, and we will talk about that.
Yep.
And she keeps using it almost like a grappling hook. And with each throw, she keeps getting sucked down deeper and deeper into the bog. We get to the point where all we see is her face because
Yeah.
she starts with her torso and then keeps going down, down, down. So at this point, she's been doing even do one-handed throws. She needs to throw with all of her might, both hands, and actually catches
Hmm.
on the branches or the little structure over there, and she was able to pull herself out. Obviously, we know that the lead of the movie isn't going to die here, but
Not just no, no.
but they gave us a nice anxiety fueled scene.
Yeah, like it's for anybody. Man, I felt like growing up, that was a constant fear because it was in a lot of pop culture movies and whatnot, was quicksand and things of that nature. So, like, I already have a built-in anxiety around it. So watching her and, like you said, handle it the way that she did, very calm. And you're like, all right, if you stay calm, you'll be fine. But her still sinking, like you, it's like I don't think anything's gonna happen to the lead. But they were getting me in my stomach the first time I watched. I just felt very uncomfortable and uneasy because I kept thinking about, like, oh God, if I was in the situation, I'm done for. And she's doing everything that she can with this axe that she has now built a line to, which, again, we will discuss as time goes on, and her able to pull herself out. And it was like, okay, good. It was an anxiety filled scene.
And we get a nice little visual when she gets out of the bog. She's covered in mud from head to toe. And
Yes.
how can this not be an homage to Arnold when he covered himself in the
Yes.
mud in the first Predator movie?
There are a few homages, and we'll touch on them as we go. But yeah, this is one of the many that we do get to have in this movie. Again, I feel like Dan Trachtenberg wanted to show a lot of love and appreciation for previous films and did it in a way where it didn't feel like he was beating you over the head with it. We can see a lot of movies go too hard, and it's like, all right, we got it. You're acknowledging the original films or the old films or the previous films. But Dan had a really good sweet spot where it didn't feel like things he didn't hold it too long, and for some people may not even correlate the two, but the idea of her covered in full mud, it definitely reminded me of Dutch watching.
Yeah. So she escapes out of the bog, but then this is the jungle. So we have, or the woods rather, we have more
Hmm.
things to worry about here. Um, she ends up stumbling upon a grizzly bear,
Oh yeah.
and she draws her line back, and the line snaps.
Yep.
And it makes enough noise where the grizzly bear is starting to sniff around, and he's sensing that she's around. You know, um, thankfully her dog ends up distracting the bear
Hmm.
to the point where she's once again we see her go to work.
Yep.
She redoes her bow, and
Yeah.
she sets it back up again, but she's always on the move, and I noticed that about Naru in this movie.
Hmm.
She was always on the move, but eventually she gets to a spot where she feels like she can hide. It's like the structure there, and she's basically at the mercy of this bear at this point because
Yeah. Yeah.
she's thinking that this is the thing that's been killing everybody.
Yeah, because they have brought up the fact when they saw the print, she goes, it could be a bear. And she
Yeah.
goes, but why would it walk on its hind legs? She's still unsure, but it could be a bear. And like you said, at this point, she's in grave danger, man, because she's already shot the bear once with an arrow, and that bear is coming nonstop. And she's got to find a way out of there or she's toast. And again, like it's not looking good for her at this moment.
So, um, you know, reminiscent of the Revenant, we see
Yes.
this bear coming after Naru, and it's just getting closer and closer while she's in the structure, and she's just hoping for a miracle at this point because she has no idea how she's going to get out of it. And then we see the bear um, uh, basically have a battle with the predator,
Bro.
and yeah, so the bear's like fighting the predator, and it gets a couple swipes in because you could see the green blood
Yep.
um, on the face of the bear, and to Naru, she's just seeing this invisible figure have a fight with the bear. She has no idea what's going on,
Nope.
and the predator wins the fight, and
Bro.
obviously the claw comes into play again, and I guess I guess it guts the bear or something like that, but it slices the bear to the point that blood is coming out of the bear. It is so strong, it lifts the bear over its head that it starts raining blood on top of the predator, a bloodbath, if you will.
Yup.
And then Naru sees the creature. Now she finally sees the predator for the first time. Naru does not waste any time in getting
Nope.
away when she sees this.
Nope. Time to get out. Time to get out. That whole scene
Yeah.
was incredible because, again, we're usually watching outside of the Alien versus Predator films. The Predators are usually working against human beings, and they have the advantage, the strength advantage for sure. Seeing this thing go against a bear when we know how deadly bears are and how strong and how thick, there's a moment where the bear starts charging the predator and the predator just punches it dead in the face and it just knocks the bear out. And you're like, how? And like you said, it guts it and it gorilla presses it above its head.
Yeah, there we
And
go.
it's one of this might be the one time out of all the Predator films that I've seen where we got to see just how strong a single predator is with its bare hands. You know what I mean? Like it was unreal to see this thing gorilla press this bear above its head. And what an amazing shot as the blood trickles down and she gets to see the silhouette of the predator and knowing she has no idea what this is, but this is presumably what she has been tracking. And she's like, I've got to get out of here. And without missing a beat, gone.
Yeah. So Naru starts to escape here. She ends up running into a group of Comanche that were sent to find her because she disappeared.
Mhm.
The predator catches up to them, and she's there. Well, she got into a
There's a
fight.
fight.
She
There's
get
a
she,
fight.
she got into a fight. So
Yep.
we already lost Pack. So now somebody
Yep.
else is trying to pick a fight with her,
Yep.
and she's giving it to him.
Oh,
And
she brought it. She
and
got hands.
and they fought dirty because they were just like, all right, it's over. And then as she's leaving, one of the other tribesmen throws her back in, and then he sucker
Yep.
punches her, and then
Yep.
they tie her up. But while she's getting tied up, the predator in camouflage is just going at the rest of them, and
Yep.
then we start the predator just starting to be unleashed here, and she's seeing all this happen, and she's like, "You guys need to untie me because
Yep.
I'm not going to stand a chance." So obviously she has to do this herself. So one of the guys that got taken out, she runs to them, and because he took her axe from her, so
Mhm.
she cuts herself free, and you know she's just getting out of there. But she sees what the predator can do. Like now we're talking about dismemberment and decapitations at
Yeah.
this point. We're getting there.
Yeah.
It's getting heavy.
This is where we really start to see the rated R come into play.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, like again, and I feel like it's something that has somewhat been missing from the Predator films again because they kind of went into the AVP territory, so they're fighting like these giant aliens or whatnot, and you don't really get to have this type of combat. But here, the Predator is going against warriors. Every one of them is a warrior in their own right, so they've got some hand game, they've got some weapon game, and they're fighting and going back and forth. And it was awesome to see the Predator sequence where we get to see a Predator fight and not just fight one assailant, but multiple assailants at one. And they're getting some shots in on the predator. They stab him in the foot at one point, but he's taking them all out. I like that we get to see a little bit of technology in this one, where in the old movies, the predator has like a laser cannon, but now his laser cannon is essentially steel arrows. So I do like that we've gone back with this technology a little bit. That's really cool to see. And yeah, this whole fight scene was insane to watch because, like you said, there's a lot of dismemberment, decapitations, and there's a lot of aggression and anger because this predator is getting very annoyed at these individuals that are fighting back, and he takes them all out. But I did appreciate, I did like the fact again that when the predator showed up, she was like, you got to untie me because I need to be able to fight. It wasn't just a hide. It wasn't like, all right, run, sprint, hide. She was like, all right, nope, he's here. I got to fight. So that was pretty dope.
So while she's escaping from the predator who's just carving these these guys up,
Yeah.
she gets caught in a trap. So she's back, being back into trouble again, basically. Like
Yep.
Naru can't catch a break. Um, we get to find out these are French travelers,
Hmm.
and um, she's in a cage, and with Sari, her dog, and then we see an interpreter come up, and he can speak English, as opposed to these other men that can't. They speak French. And we find out this is Raphael Adelini.
Hmm.
And we will find out the significance of this name. Well, actually, by now we should know the significance of the name, but we'll see it in a visual
Yeah.
sense later on. She asks Naru about the creature because at this point they're starting to realize there's something out there, but they don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
because they just have a feeling. The Frenchmen have encountered the predator before, but they don't know what it is. So she's like she's not trying to talk, not to give them any
Mm.
information. Then the leader of the group, who's nasty, obviously, um,
Very.
he shows that they have her brother. She doesn't know. He doesn't know it's her brother, but
Mm.
Tab is over there, and they start torturing him. They start cutting him up and stuff. So she'll reveal the information, and they want to capture the predator, but they don't know what they're trying to capture. They just know there's something out there. They're exploring, so
Yeah.
this is something new that they've never seen before. Um, Before things can get even uh, can settle down a little bit, uh, the predator starts killing the Frenchmen left and right, and Tab and
Bro.
Naru escape because we shift to the next scene where they're tied up. Ta-
Yep.
Naru and Tab, they're tied up, and then the predator's just coming in, just slicing up the Frenchman left and right. They're trying to shoot the predator. Nothing. They're trying to
Nothing.
throw knives. It's nuts.
This was a good scene because it was the first time that she gets to acknowledge that the predator doesn't take any pride in killing anything that's not a threat or a challenge. Because Tab is like, we have to get out of here, we're gonna die. And she's like, no, he had an opportunity to kill me when I was caught with the trap, and he didn't. I wasn't a threat to him, so therefore there's no challenge. They're trophy hunters, and there's no challenge in that. um and it's also a really good scene too because he confesses to her that she did have the cougar. He's like, you had it. I beat it with your plan. You had it and you were close. You have this. You can do this. And he's like motivating her at this moment, like, no, you can do this. We can do this together. And that was a cool moment for them to have, his brother and sister, when at the beginning, again, he's very much like, no, you ain't got it. This is what you do. You're a healer. And for him to be like, no, you had it. You were so close. You were so close. And I only succeeded because of your plan. Now we can work together and we can make this happen. And like you said, this predator is just shish kebabbing
They're
everybody.
done. We
One of my favorite one of my favorite kills probably in the entire franchise was when he has the guy pinned against the wall and he's holding him by the neck and his shield just opens up and decapitates the guy, and the tree gets cut at the same time, and there's just nothing left. And it was just like, again, Dan is coming up with really unique ways of doing things that we haven't seen before in this franchise. And it's violent and it's bloody and it's a very exciting scene.
Yeah, and there's like bombs that the predator's
Yeah.
throwing. There's like these blade um, mechanisms and such. It's
Yep.
it's it's really wild.
Yep.
So Naru rescues Sari from the camp, and she stumbles across Raphael, who's
Hmm.
really wounded here. He has like one of his legs missing and such, um, and he's begging her to help him. Um, he says, "I'll teach you how to use my gun.
Yeah.
To help me treat my severed leg. I know you're a healer. For some
Yeah.
reason, he just knew that she
Yeah.
could do that, and I'm assuming they've studied the Comanche at
Yeah.
this point. So
I think the same thing. I think because she was a woman, he knew that she was a healer and was like, okay, like this is what you can do. Do this for me, and I'll help you by teaching you how to use a gun.
yeah, so she goes to work with her herbs and creating that ointment for the leg and his wounds and such, and then we come back to the psychedelic flowers again,
Yes.
and he eats it, and then he starts saying, "I'm cold." So we get that
Yep.
scene again. I'm cold. The predator comes up. Raphael plays dead, as he should.
Yep.
And then that's where Naru just realizes something.
Mm-hmm.
She sees that the predator doesn't see him,
Can't see him.
and it just clicks with her. Oh, it's because he's cold. This
Yep.
creature because remember, she's a good tracker, so she has to have a sense of what the animals she's tracking, what they can do and
Yep.
such. So she figures it out that, oh, it's because of the heat, you know?
Yep. He finds through heat, the heat signature is what draws him. And the moment she realizes that the blood runs cold and he's pretending to be dead, it's like the predator can't the predator can't see him. He sees the silhouette of a body, but it's coming up in his infrared as a corpse, as a dead body, because the blood has run cold. And they even make a point to show that when he looks at the blood that is somewhat distant from the body, the blood is still warm because it's not attached to the body anymore. He sees it and he follows the blood up to the body, but then the body's cold. And the predator is kind of like, huh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, this guy's dead. And he just, he moves on because he thinks he's dead because of the blood. And I love that she picked up on it right away. Cause like you said, as a tracker, she knows this about the things that they hunt and whatnot. So she was able to put two and two together.
So unfortunately, the predator accidentally steps on Raphael, and
Hmm.
from the pain, he ends up screaming, and then the predator kills him with a claw.
Yep. Turns
So
around and goes, "Oh, you're still alive."
yeah,
Stab. And then
and
yeah, just takes him out.
and it stinks because Raphael was unarmed, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we know the predator's ruthless, you know.
Yeah, the way I took it was, the warrior's death, right? Clearly, Raphael was in a battle with him,
Right.
and he took off his leg, and they got into a fight, and he has to finish it off. Like, that's how it works. He can't just be like, "Oh, well, you're no longer a threat because I beat you up really bad." He goes, "No, I have to. It's a warrior's death, my man. You want to go to Valhalla or not? All right, I'm taking you out." And the does what he does.
Yeah. Tab arrives on horseback to help rescue Naru,
This scene is
and
awesome.
yeah, they tag team to the
This
predator, and we
tag
get to
is
see,
awesome, dude.
yeah, we get to see Tab just go toe to toe with the
Yeah, dude.
spear against the predator, and Naru's helping, with her axe, with the rope and such. Like
Mhm.
she like it's a great brother sister team, you know.
It was great because again, when we think of like going toe to toe with the predator, a lot of times we think of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like a big beefy guy. Tab is not a big guy, but what Tab has is survival skills, hunting, warrior, and he's fast. Like he's so quick, and the predator just can't keep up. And I love seeing that aspect. And it was another reminder of why this was such a great story to make, dealing with the indigenous, where they're hunters, they're quick, they're agile, and the predator had a hard time. And I loved it. And they're working together, and he's throwing him off his feet, and he's using the spear and knives and whatnot. This whole sequence is fantastic. It's one of my favorite sequences in the movie.
So they got a few shots in on the predator, but unfortunately, um, uh, the predator ends up killing Tab, and Naru ends up escaping, and she does find the lead Frenchman, who's actually still
Mm.
alive.
Yep.
She captures him and uses him as bait
As
to
bait.
bring the predator out, and she takes the herbs that they put down here to hide her body heat,
Yeah.
so the psychedelics I call them, and she uses Raphael's pistol point blank to the back of the head, um, to hit the creature after he kills the lead Frenchman.
What
And
what what I love about this scene, because I wanted to bring it up,
yeah,
is she puts the gun. She allows him to have the gun, but there's no bullet in it. There's no ammo in it, because she wanted the predator to see him as a threat and make sure that there was no doubt whatsoever that this guy needed to be taken out. And the guy being, she's telling, like, she's there with the guy, and he pulls the gun out on her. And she says that, she goes, there's no ammo, there's no bullet, but the predator wouldn't know that. And the predator takes him out. She gets the gun, she loads it up. And like you said, it's there's a lot of great cinematography in this movie. And this shot is one of my favorite shots, because you see the Frenchman who is dead, and the predator standing there over the body. And right behind him, she's standing there with her arm extended and the pistol just aimed right at the back of his head. It's such a good shot.
yeah, it's a great scene. She already unsuccessfully tried to use the gun against the predator beforehand because Raphael
Yes.
showed her how to use the gun, but she messed up and it
Hmm.
didn't fire. But now she made sure to do the right thing so it could fire, and it was a really cool shot because the predator's walking, and she kind of just moves over because she doesn't want the
Yep.
predator to touch her. Um, he brought it up. Just the line she said to the Frenchman. I'm going to read it here. She says, "You bled my brother, so now you bleed. You think that I am not a hunter, that I am not a threat. That is what makes me so dangerous. You can't see that
Yes.
I'm killing you, and it won't either."
It's
And
so
yeah, yeah, good
it's
stuff.
such a good line, and I love the idea is like, "You don't see me as a threat, and that's why I'm so dangerous." It's such a BA line, and it's so accurate because sometimes the most dangerous things we don't see as a threat, and I just love that, and you can't see that, and he doesn't either, and, like, like you said, the predator walks by, and she just sidesteps out of the way and everything else, and again, I just gotta put over the fact that I absolutely adore that the movie went a different route and didn't do the mud again. I expected it. I was like, oh, she'll hide in the mud, she'll get covered. They kind of almost teased us, right? Because at the beginning of the movie, when she falls into the bog, she's covered in mud. And I was like, okay, she'll cover in mud later. But then again, the psychedelics and everything else was like, wow, they went even cooler because like it's cooling her blood. And that's dope because it's not something that can wipe off in water or anything. Like it's in her bloodstream. And it gives her a really clear advantage. And I love that the movie did something different with it.
So this is a great shot. It's a shot we've been waiting for the whole movie, where we see a really nice, hit on the predator, and the predator takes a point blank gunshot to the back of the head,
Yeah,
man,
dude.
and
Yup.
to the point that the mask the predator is wearing gets flung off, and the predator ends up killing the lead Frenchman. But from this interaction, Naru is able to realize that the mask is what the predator was using to direct the spear. The
Yep.
spear gun rather, because uh, in Predator we know that the three dots mean that it has
That
that fire.
laser cannon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has it has that mechanism on its shoulder. But in an early version here, I guess because it happened beforehand, it's got the three dots coming out from the mask, but it's a spear gun where it could fire up to three spears, I guess.
Yeah, it's like three small arrows and
Yeah.
they're made of steel. And what's interesting about it is that like there's at one point in the movie where he's trying to shoot her brother, but the mask is pointing in another direction. So if he misses, it will go wherever that laser's pointing. And it's just like, yeah. So when she took that helmet, I wasn't sure what the plan was, but I was like, all right, she's gonna definitely take advantage of that homing system.
So then we get the final showdown between Naru and the Predator.
So
And
good.
oh, this is awesome. She, at this point, she's been preparing because she just recently had her first battle with some animals. you know
Hmm.
so um so she's just jumping in at this point, because she hasn't really officially hunted either. She just had her first
Mm-mm.
encounter with the cougar, her first
Hmm.
encounter with the bear, and she technically hasn't successfully had a kill yet.
Yeah.
So this is the hardest thing that anyone's ever faced. So
Yup.
she jumps out of the tree, man, superhero style, just right onto the back of the predator, and just getting the axe, just getting those shots in. Um, she ends up severing the claw arm
Bro.
because she positioned the way that the shield and the arm was positioned. She was able to manipulate the predator to cut its own arm off, I believe, with the
It
shield.
it was so good. First of all, again, the cinematography in these shots are incredible because it's snowing. Like the snow's coming down and the moonlight, it looks fantastic. But like you said, she does the superhero jump. She jumps off a tree. She starts axing this guy up. Um, and she's like, all right. So she makes some distance and she's running and he's bouncing from tree to tree. She has set up spikes on the trees because she watched how he traveled and he got stuck by the spikes on the tree, like it cut his foot or whatnot, and he jumps at her and he tries to punch through her and he's got the blades and he gets stuck in the tree, and she's so good that she's able to manipulate and duck, dodge, dive, do whatever she has to do, that when he tries to hit her with the shield weapon, he cuts to his own arm. And it's so wild because he doesn't really react in like pain. He just kind of looks like, you really made me do that. And it's like, okay, we're gonna go toe to toe now. And like she takes advantage of it with her speed. And now that he's only got one arm, he can only do so much at this point. But this whole fight, man, it just continues to get better and better as it keeps going.
So now it's the shield. I don't have my claw, so now I have the shield. I'm trying to get you with the shield. And she he's the predator's coming after her, so she positions herself. She's on the ground.
Yeah.
She sees that there's like two big stones here, and she's like, if I can position myself there, he won't be able to get me with the shield. So she pushes herself back. He gets the shield, but that shield is so strong it can cut through stone.
Yeah, it's going, man.
So he's pushing down, and the predator makes the mistake of getting up in her face. Yep. And she looks at him, and in another move here, man, like Trachtenberg just went for it to make this just so exciting. No fear. She reaches up into his mouth, grabs a fang, and stabs him in the head with his own fang.
Bro.
Allowing him to escape. We've never seen this in any Predator movie before.
Nope. So good, man. It like, again, she ripped it out of his mouth and stabs him in the head. And I was like, bro, she's probably one of the most BA characters we've had in the Predator franchise, period. And she made her distance and she was able to get out.
So she ends up stealing the device and lures the creature into the bog. That's the the mask, the mask with the homing mechanism on it. And she uses the axe and the rope to drag the predator into the same bog that almost killed her earlier in the movie. Yes. And she positions the mask to face the pit. And as she's fighting the predator, it ends up sinking into the bog. But so she's thinking, all right, I got it. I don't have to worry about it. But no, it ends up coming back out. Almost
horrifying.
Just either it was tall enough or it had some type of mechanism on it to levitate out. Yeah.
I was trying to figure it out too, because obviously he's very tall. And he goes in head first. And I love that, like, she has it wrapped around his neck. And the dog is helping her. They're working together. And she pulls it in. And, like, he goes completely under. But because he went, like, he lays down. So he's completely under. And all of a sudden, he just stands up. And he's just coming out. And it is a horrifying visual. And I, too, was like, wait, does he have something that's helping him? Or is he just that tall where he's just like, oh, I'm just going to stand up? I don't know what it was. But, yeah, it was terrifying to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's open to interpretation, but the assumption is he's tall enough,
Yeah, he just stood up, man.
Right, because she's small,
Very,
so
very.
And the predators, they're like 7, 8, 9 feet tall.
Bro, yeah, he towers her. Yeah.
So, it ends up firing the spear gun at her, and misses because the mask is guiding the projectile, the darts back to him, and it ends up hitting him. Yeah. And she lets out a battle cry for the first time in the movie after killing him. I got chills.
Dude, exactly. Like, I got chills thinking about it. Like, this scene was so awesome because, again, we get another callback to Predator with Dutch, and she's just sitting there and she wants him to pull the trigger. So she's like, do it. Come on, do it. I'm right here. Do it. And I'm like, oh, we're getting the Dutch moment. And she hits him with a line that unfortunately her brother said before he died, was like, this is where it ends. This is where it ends for me. And she goes, this is where it ends. And she says it, and he pulls the trigger, and without even knowing, the arrow goes around. He realizes it's too late. He sees the lasers at his head, and bam, just takes him out. And then she lets out the warrior's cry. And talk about a first kill, man. Her first kill, wanting to prove herself time and time again, taking out one of the baddest things in the galaxy, a predator. Man, kudos. Like, nothing but applause. She absolutely crushed it.
So Naru cuts the head off of the predator, and she paints her face with the glowing green blood, the trademark there. She comes back to the village with the head of the creature, and she's declared the new war chief from doing this act. Guess what? Any tradition we had goes out the window because you just killed the most terrifying thing that we've ever come across, ever, I don't remember the word that they used, but it was almost like their version of the Baba Yaga. You know,
Yes,
the
I can't
boogeyman, the
pronounce it. I
demon.
Yep.
You know, every culture has one.
Yes.
Chupacabra. You know, like
Yes.
every culture has one, and I'm sure they used one too. Um, the Frenchman called it a demon when he saw it.
Yeah.
So um, Nauru informs her tribe that it's time for them to move on, and then they finally show a close up of the gun, and
Yes.
it's we see Raphael's name on it, but then it's just kind of like, oh, if you didn't get it before, this is the same gun that was given to Danny Glover at the end of Predator 2.
And Predator 2. And I
Yeah.
remember I got so excited when, because it didn't hit me either. But when she handed the gun, my brain immediately went, that's the gun from Predator 2. That's the gun that the Predator gifts to Danny Glover's character for successfully beating a predator. So my brain already started working because I'm like, wait a minute, that's a great Easter egg, but her tribe has it. And I was like, oh no, how do the predators get it
Right.
following this event? And I was like, oh, I want to know what the story is. But yeah, like you said, all tradition at that point out the window. She has she has herself slayed one of the deadliest things in the galaxy, something that we wouldn't have any right being able to beat. It is far more advanced with technology, but long and behold, a warrior is a warrior, and she didn't need to have the technology that he had. She was able to manipulate his technology, but she was able to do it with all the skills that she had acquired through her own life. And man, dude, just one of the best characters in the franchise, easily.
So we end up getting a little bit more story in the credits actually. So we see the drawings and such, and we see these paintings, and it ends with seeing the tribe looking up and seeing
Hmm.
three vessels, three ships
Yeah,
coming back.
yeah,
So we're assuming, unfortunately, that the predators find a way to get the gun back.
yep.
Um, so that's our movie, and
Oh,
we already touched on it. But I mean, I was blown away within the first 15 minutes. So by the end of the movie, I was just like, "Man, where's this been?"
this.
Because
Oh,
I love the Predator movie, you know this. One of my favorite
yes.
movies. I mean, let's just put it out there. Predator is my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, quite
Hmm.
possibly my favorite 80s movie. It's just such a unique experience. And for the first time in the franchise, it finally felt like a Predator movie again.
It did.
I mean, and they were all Predator movies.
Yeah.
Let's not gloss over that, but it felt like, oh yeah, this is what a Predator movie could be. And it was just so exciting, and I remember I couldn't help but texting you throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh man, something awesome happens! Can't wait for you to see this." I'm praising just everything about this movie, just so exciting, and it just opened things up.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I think we were all rooting for it for many reasons. Obviously, being a fan of the franchise, and as I mentioned earlier, like there are some people that love the sequels, there's some people that are indifferent that hate the sequels. I think there's great moments in every single one of them, but for the public, they just haven't really landed overall. It is what it is, and this one landed, and it felt special because, like you said, we just got that feeling again that it felt like, okay, this is it. This is what has been missing. This is the magic formula, the blueprint that has been missing. And it just got me excited on what other stories we could tell with this type of a formula. How many different eras can we visit? How many different warriors can we visit? Locations all over the world, if you will, with this type of story where you have a predator that's dropped in a land somewhere and is facing off with different warriors from different cultures. We could see such a variety of things. So that was another reason why this movie worked so well for me, was it was all the doors that it could open moving forward. And it just hit. The Easter eggs were fantastic. I love the Easter eggs. The Dutch Easter eggs. And I forgot about this. There's a scene with her brother Tab where they say it, where they're tied up. I forgot to bring it up, and that's on me. But when they're tied up being used as bait, and she says, "I don't think this thing can be killed." And he pauses and he goes, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." And I got so excited. And I was like, yes, we're going back. Like we're again, they found a way to do it where it didn't feel too in your face. It was just enough Easter eggs that could call me back. And it didn't feel like a line that was just put in there for the sake of acknowledging the first. It felt like it would flow that way in that type of a conversation, because they have seen it go to battle. I'm like, hey, if this thing bleeds, we can kill it. And I was like, yes, it was a great callback. So Dan did a great job. I don't know if we're gonna follow this story because, like you said, we do see the paintings at the very end of the movie, and we see the 3 ships, and it kind of insinuates they come back, and maybe there's a big battle. Are we gonna see that? I don't know. Would I see it? Would I love to see it? Of course, I would love to see it, but I don't know if they're just gonna stick to this formula moving forward. Like, all right, now we're gonna go to a new time, a new era, a new culture, a new warrior. We'll see what happens.
To your points about the callback to the first Predator movie, I put it down here that, besides that line, um, when she's trying to trick the Predator to firing the thing at her,
Mhm.
um, her exact words were, "Come on, come on, come on, come on, do it. Come on, do it." And
Yes.
Dutch's line in the first Predator movie, where he's trying to trick the Predator, is, "Come on, I'm right here. What are you waiting for? Kill me. Do it now." So
Do it now.
it's come on.
It's a great callback, and like
Yeah,
it's not spoon fed, and it's
no.
not exactly the same. It's like it's a great callback. She's baiting him the same way that Dutch was baiting the Predator. She's baiting him, and it worked, and it absolutely worked. And again, it just showed it's a true it almost feels like it's a legacy sequel. Like it pays homage to what came before it while introducing something new and fresh, while still having enough connection to the original that you feel like you're watching not the same thing, but you feel like you're still in that world, but it's different and it's fresh. Again, I thought that this was the best route they could have possibly taken with this franchise, and now I just want to see more. I'm like, let's do more of that, please.
So I like to look at the box office and the budget
Mhm.
and such, but we won't have a box office because it was
Nope.
released on streaming. But of note, Trachtenberg was able to make this movie for $65 million.
Bro,
So
kudos, man. It
yeah,
looks fantastic. The practical effects, the guy in the suit, everything looks great. The cinematography is on point. Like, come on, man. He did great.
yeah. Uh, to your point there, this is my only knock on the movie. I would have liked if we did more practical effects because the close-ups of the face were CGI.
Yeah, which is
So
weird,
yeah,
because there's a practical they showed it. I watched behind the scenes. They had a practical and then they covered it with CGI. And I don't know I don't know why they did that because it looks great. I've seen behind the scenes. I'm like, oh, they had an actual practical mechanical mask. And I don't know. Maybe they just thought it would look better if they covered it in CGI.
isn't CGI more expensive than a practical effect? That's my assumption,
I
or
would
maybe
assume it
not.
is because I honestly don't know. I guess it would depend on the effect because at least with visual effects, you're paying more hours and time probably because in post production, whereas in practical, a lot of it's in camera,
Yeah.
and usually you'll smooth things out with VFX and tighten things up. But it is astonishing because one of the things that I appreciated about watching the BTS features of this movie was seeing that it was practical and it was mechanical, and they had the people there working the mouth and everything, and then they covered it in CGI anyway, which sometimes happens to be a studio decision and it's not necessarily the people working on the film. I've seen other films that's happened to in the past. Most notably, like the Thing remake, they made full practical things and they were like, hey, just cover it in CGI. And I was like, why? So, yeah, it's one thing that I'm not sure why they did it, but watching some of the I got to see some of the behind the scenes with them working with the dog and seeing the actor in the real Predator suit and moving and things like that. And it's just a beautiful thing to behold, man. Those suits, those Predator suits are awesome.
Yeah, I think the studios sometimes just get scared of practical effects because they think it
Mhm.
doesn't
They think it
look
doesn't
right,
look good. Yeah, I think that's what
and
it is.
it's just like, listen, we're not stupid. We already know this
Mhm.
isn't real. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking that making it be CGI is going to make it look better or look more real, that's not always the case.
No.
So just
No.
let it go next time.
You could watch the 80s Predator movie right now. And the end of that movie, when the Predator takes off his helmet and he's having to fight with Dutch,
Right.
and it's a practical effect the entire time, it looks incredible.
Right. Like,
And
listen, we know it's somebody in a suit. We're fine,
yeah,
and we're
yeah,
okay with that, So
it looked incredible. So yeah, so hopefully, if we get more, they'll lean back and say, hey, we'll put the CGI when we have to for any really fast scenes or anything of that nature. Go for it, especially if there's safety involved. But those close-up scenes where there's not a lot, we can go practical. It'll be fine, I promise.
So let's take a look at a few things that just really made this movie work. Why did this movie work? As a sequel to the Predator franchise, because let's go down the list here. We had Predator, Predator
Mhm.
2, we had Predators, and then we
Yes.
had the Predator. And then we can also count Alien versus Predator and Alien versus Predator Requiem. So
Hmm.
all those movies, not counting the AVP movies, just even the regular Predator movies, just they each had their own type of spin,
Hmm.
but just for one reason or another, I mean, I think they were okay. I
Yeah.
think they were okay at best, but for most of the general public and critically and such, they didn't hit as much as the first movie until now. For me, I put down here the Comanche language. That's just one
Oh,
thing.
so awesome.
Like
So awesome.
we got to hear it during the movie, but then they also like you were telling me, they had a dub version too.
Yes.
And
And it's interesting because you cannot, when I went to watch it today on Hulu, you cannot click audio and change it. It's actually like two separate movies. There is the Prey um original release, and then underneath is Prey Comanche version, and the entire movie just in Comanche. And I got to watch that for a few minutes to see what it was like, and I thought that was so cool that they got to do that. It's pretty great to see someone's culture represented in such a way where they're not only showing you visually, but you get to have that audio and you get to hear their language, and that's it's pretty exciting when that happens.
we talked about the design of the Predator, and
Yeah.
they did it again because the first time we see the Predator in the first Predator movie, if you've never seen that movie before, when you see
Hmm.
the Predator unmasked, it's terrifying because of the
Yes.
way the face that Predator looks. So throughout the course of the movie, we never see the face of the Predator,
Mm-mm.
and when we do see it this time, they did them some things to it. So it's like, hey, you're not going to get the same exact design. We want to give
Yeah.
you a different design, and it's like, oh wow, that's a pretty gnarly looking face, you know.
Yeah, it was different, and I appreciated the difference. I think they brought it up in Predators, where they told us that there was different, like wolves and dogs, that there's different breeds, if you will, and there's different types of predators. And I like the idea that the predators in themselves can have different cultures, they can look different. And I thought that was unique because it's the idea of, like, like if we think of an alien in our head, we think all aliens look the same. It's like if an alien maybe saw a human, all humans look the same, but we all have distinct features that make us look different from one another. And it was cool to see a predator again where his face has been covered majority of this film, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's his face, but it's different. It's recognizable. You still have the mandible claws in the face, but his face might be a little longer, maybe a little slimmer, if you will. This was probably our most trim looking predator, I would say, to date. We've had bulky predators, we've had super bulky predators, but this one looked like a predator that did like track. It was a slim down, it was quicker, it was more agile. Because again, this thing was jumping from tree to tree without any issues. So it was cool that they gave us a little bit of a different vibe with the Predator this go around.
Let's talk about the axe and the rope here.
Yeah.
So I am a gamer,
Mhm.
and I am a fan of the God of War franchise. And
Yes.
I had to look it up because the axe reminded me of two things. Well, one,
Mhm.
in the newer God of War 2018, and
Yes.
God of War Ragnarok, he has an axe that he throws that he can summon back.
Yes.
Almost like Mjolnir and Thor.
Mhm.
But he also has the blades of chaos, and
Yes.
there's these blades attached to the ends of rope, so it's almost like they combine the two together to give
Mhm.
her the axe and the rope. And I looked it up, and Trashberg said, he said, if you're thinking that this was influenced by God of War, you're right,
I love
because
it.
when I saw Kratos throwing the axe and bringing it back, I wanted her to be able to throw one of her axes and bring it back. So there we go. Then we
It's
have an
nice.
answer.
Look, it's nice to get some game culture represented too, man, because the God of War games are incredible. I'm currently playing Ragnarok as we speak. Phenomenal game. And I love that in the movie they make it a point to show that like when she's practicing with the axe, she throws it, it gets stuck in a tree, and she has to walk over there and get it. And something as simple as that in a fight can be life or death. So I love the idea that like if she throws it, if she misses, she can pull it back. If it hits her target, she can pull it forward. If she hits the tree missing a target, she can pull it back and it's right there. And it's really cool. And in the movie, they kind of mock her for it. They're like, "Oh, you tied a rope around your axe so you don't lose it or whatever." And it's like, no, bro, like she's ahead of the game. And I do think that's really cool that Dan was like, "Hey guys, that's for God of War." I think that's pretty sick.
So we already touched on it. I feel like we got a nice glimpse of the culture of the Comanche
Yes.
people. We got to hear the language. We got to see how they work with each other. We got to see how they
Mm-hmm.
hunt. We got to see Naru as a healer. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then also just, you know, with a little bit of the I don't want to use a word and I don't want to use a buzzword here, but almost like the colonizers of the
Mm-hmm.
French, that
Yeah.
coming in. So we got to see that too. It kind of changed the aspect as well.
Yeah.
Um, I like a good short movie if it's done right. And this movie is listed at 99 minutes. So an hour and
Bro,
39 minutes.
perfect sweet spot, man.
Yeah, we just jump right into the action, and it's thrilling from beginning to end. Um, no major awards, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It really changed things. I want to give some love to the cast here,
Yes.
if we can. So obviously, and we'll have a chance to give her a praise. But Amber Midthunder, brava, as the
Bro.
lead. Wow, Virtual Unknown. She's done a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly TV, but wow, what a gamble that
Yeah.
absolutely. First of all, they went ahead and made a woman the lead, which
Yes.
sometimes that's a gamble, unfortunately, in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
And, you're wondering like, well, how can a woman stand up to a predator? And a lot of people had a problem with this, but I feel like the people that
Yeah.
did, they didn't watch the movie.
They didn't watch the movie at all, because if you watch the movie, it made complete sense. Like I was watching this movie, and again, it's another one of those situations where and I'm sure that this movie, like you said, had some negativity because they cast a female as the lead to go against a predator, and people had their arms folded and they're like, how can a woman beat the predator? That doesn't make any sense. Dutch had a hard time. I was like, listen, bro, they found a way. They found a
Yeah.
way. Listen, man, she is a hunter. She is quick. Her small size plays a role, man. I don't know about you, but it's kind of hard to get a hold of somebody that quick and that agile, especially when you're missing an arm like
Right.
the predator.
And
You know what I mean? They make it work.
right. And so Dutch is a big guy, but it's not like he had a fist fight with the predator. He
Bro,
trapped the predator just like she did. She
bro.
used traps, she used techniques, she used her skill, she used her
Yeah.
smarts on him. And then she had something that Dutch didn't have, was the speed due to being a smaller person.
Yep.
So
Look, Dutch got one hit on the predator, and you realize, well, that was a big mistake, and it beat him down. And it was like, you can't do that. And no one was expecting her to go up to predator with her fists up and fight. Like nobody was expecting that. But like you said, Dutch took out the predator with a lot of those techniques. You know what I mean? Like setting traps. And this is what she does. This is what she does. She knows how to do this really well. She set traps, used her speed, her agility, and it worked. Not to mention the predator, like she's already injured the predator a few times. Her brother's injured the predator a few times. The predator's been stabbed in the foot. The predator fought a bear. Like the predator's been through the ringer too. So by the end of the movie, they both have been through it. You know what I mean? The predator has been through some stuff and she's been through some stuff. But at this point, she's been able to study the predator and know exactly what his weaknesses are, what her strengths can be moving forward. She's got a nice partner in the dog, man. Nice shout out to the dog. The dog did its thing. But yeah, like she did great. It's one thing to be a lead in the film already. There's already massive pressure, but she's leading a predator film, which is already attached as a massive IP. People already have their opinions based off of the Predator franchise, the Predator lore, and if you will. So like she's already got like a lot stacked against her, and she did a phenomenal job. Great performance, great on-screen presence, great. I thought her and her brother had great charisma together, great camera chemistry, and when she throws down, you believe it. She was a highlight, and arguably, in my opinion, behind Dutch, she's the best character in the Predator franchise. Like she really is.
So we also had Dakota Beavers. Her brother, he played her brother Tab,
Awesome.
and I read here that Tab was almost an homage to Billy from the first Predator,
Oh,
played by Sonny
okay.
Landham,
Okay.
um, because Billy was just as fearless as you can be,
Yes.
and he faced off with the Predator like in The Last Stand,
Yep.
and Tab did the same thing, and obviously we have the Predator played by Dane DeLigro. So
Mm-hmm.
um, those are the three I wanted to highlight here, but just Amber Mid Thunder, man. I mean, let's go. Like to
I
me,
want to see her more,
a,
man.
s-
I
a
want
s-
to see her
to me,
more.
a star was born.
Yeah,
By watching this
100%.
movie. Not to discredit any of her other work, that she's
Mm-hmm.
done. She's been working for a little bit, but at the your first chance, just as a lead role in a Predator franchise, I mean,
Yup.
she couldn't have been any more special than she was.
Yep. And
And
again, as we mentioned, the Predator films already were getting beat up. So she had so much on her shoulders and she delivered. Absolutely delivered.
so we're going to start closing things out here. Dan Trachtenberg, to my understanding, we looked at his filmography. The only other major film he's done is 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yep.
And we both enjoy that.
I
So,
love that movie.
just jumped right into this. And where do we go from here? Are we going to say, all right, well, let's let Trachtenberg come back and do something else? Or is this like, hey, let's get somebody else get it? And it's so funny. You had brought up, well, maybe this is what the Predator is now. Because if the Predator's been coming back to Earth, or the Predator, people have been coming
Mm-hmm.
back to Earth, well, now let's go through all the eras,
Mm-hmm.
of history, of world history. You had mentioned the samurai, something
Yes.
like that.
Please.
We could look,
Please.
we could look at, other tribes, South
Mm-hmm.
America. We could look at African tribes, we could look at
Yes.
the Middle East. We could look at other parts of Asia.
Bro,
There's,
you take
yeah,
the movie The Woman King and Predator and you put it together and you got a movie. You know what I
right.
mean? Like we can explore so many different cultures and so many different time periods that it's like it's kind of there now. Like we found it. Like that's the formula because nothing will ever traditionally be the same because you're going to get new cultures, more representation, different techniques of hunting. It reminds me of the show. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the show World's Deadliest Warrior?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? It reminds me of that. And you're always taking a warrior from that show from a different culture and you're putting them against the Predator. And I would love to see that. I would love to go through time and see it as much as we can. There's so many stories we can tell that way.
So what do you think? Bring Dan Trachtenberg back again if he's, or I don't know. Does he want to come back?
This is interesting because there's a part of me that says, oh man, this could be almost like a very fun anthology where you bring a different director, a different culture, and you see what magic is made. But I loved what Dan did with this so much that there's a part of me that goes, I at least want to see him do one more. I at least want to see him do one more. Because I have faith in Dan. I've seen what he could do with the property that I kind of want to see it again. And I don't know if that's selfish of me to say like, oh, well, why do you want to see him do it again? Let's give another director a shot. Like I'm not against that. I'm not against that at all. But I loved what he did, and I've seen the love and appreciation that he had for the other Predator films, and I'm like, okay, let's give him another one. Let's give him, and like you said, does he even want to do another one? Who knows? But if I feel like if Dan is interested, you got to have that conversation. Let's bring him back. Let's try it out. And if not, then we go with a new director. We do a different culture, a different part of the world, a different time period, and we see how that goes. But I think that we have something really fun here, and I think there is money sitting on the table. Again, if Dan only agreed to come back to do a direct follow up to this, I'm fine with that too. I'm like, okay, if you want to explore what happens to this tribe with the Predators, I am completely down. But I would love to see Dan back in some capacity, even if he just serves as a producer. Anything, just bring Dan back in some way, please.
I had to look it up. So he wants to come back.
Yeah, see,
So he said he wants to
bring him
come
back.
back. He said, I would like to be involved, and there's several really cool things to do next. It would be
Interesting.
it would be interesting to embark on a few different things. And then, so he's not giving it away, but he said he would like to be involved and he has some cool ideas. So my guess is that we're going to look at, other time periods,
I want it so bad.
maybe we've kind of explored enough for these people, and um I don't know about you, but we kind of already know how it ends if the predators get the gun back,
Yeah,
so
and that's why I was like, "Oh, no," like, you see it, and
right.
I'm like,
And I
"Oh,
don't
wait."
right, and I don't want to see Naru die, you
I
know.
don't, I don't. I mean, technically, she gives it to her father, right? I believe she
Right.
hands it to her
Yeah,
father.
so
So there's a possibility she could live, but he's gone. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
who's to say that they don't end the next movie with her whole tribe being wiped out and she's the only survivor? You
True.
know what I mean? Like, they could do a bunch of things, but if he's got different ideas, then we might be exploring other cultures. I just want a samurai so bad.
Yeah.
Oh god, just give me the Ronin who is alone and abandoned, and it's just him and a predator, and I'm like, let's go, or her. It doesn't matter. Like, I just want to see it.
Yeah. Well, we love this movie, and our opinion is an opinion many of the people that have seen this share. It is the second best Predator movie ever,
Yes,
and um, some people have a hot take and say it's their new favorite Predator movie.
yes, I've seen it.
Because of just what they did, and as a big fan of the original Predator movie, for me, I'm just so excited to see where this franchise goes next, and
Mhm.
what we can, and I think Amber Midthunder ushered in a thing now for leads now. The lead doesn't necessarily have to be a man,
Mhm.
and we'll see where things go. But awesome effort from Dan Trachtenberg, Amber Midthunder. You are a star. Like,
Yeah.
this is so good. All righty. Well, folks, that was the Panel Bros official breakdown of Prey. And if you could please give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube at the Panel Bros, we would really appreciate it. And we appreciate those subscribes as well. The more of those we get, the higher our reaches. Also, if you could please let us know how you felt about Prey in the comments below. Please let us know how you felt about Amber Midthunder, about where the franchise of Prey is going to go from here for Predator. We would appreciate that as well. For Ricardo Segura, this is Anderson Marchak saying, thank you for coming to the panel.